because I know he hearing the whispers in the back about possibly being traded in the offseason, things not working out. I know he hearing the whispers in the background.
About us shitting on him on this podcast. I know he hears that.
That too. He had to. He's pressing.
I just don't think he has it anymore.
Melo's the role he didn't want in Oklahoma.
Carmelo Anthony drills it straight away.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Control the Narrative, a podcast where we control the narrative that the media creates. If you're new around here, subscribe to catch our weekly podcast. And if you're a returner, a subscriber, or better yet, a Control the Narrative member like our two guests tonight, we appreciate you as always. It is June 8th, Tuesday. This is the first podcast we're recording since the Portland Trail Blazers have been eliminated from the playoffs. We released the one last week on Wednesday, and then the very next night they got eliminated. So we've been putting these out Wednesday for almost 2 years. Actually, June 12th, this Saturday, is the 2-year anniversary of Control the Narrative's first podcast, which is pretty exciting. We're going to try to do something special, celebrate it somehow on Instagram or Twitter. But anyway, back to the Portland Trail Blazers. They have been eliminated from the playoffs in 6 games to the Denver Nuggets. They lost Game 5, where Damian Lillard put up 55, and they lost in double OT. And then Game 6, they lost on their home court and have since fired their coach. There seems to be a lot of changes coming in Portland. We'll get into that more so next week on next episode. But tonight, we are really just recapping the season, series, all that shit, and just reflecting on what we just watched, what we just witnessed in Denver and Portland, because I think I speak for everybody when I say we're extremely disappointed that they couldn't advance past the Denver Nuggets team without their second best player. Jokic was just named MVP. We get all that, but at the end of the day, they didn't have their second best player. And the Portland Trail Blazers, for the most part, fully healthy, outside of Zach Collins, couldn't get past the Nuggets. So we'll see what happens this summer. With that being said, I'm gonna bring on Joe and Lionel. My guys, appreciate you both as always for taking time out of your night to come hop and talk some Melo with me.
Absolutely, glad to be here.
Of course, man. Let's just jump into it. Let's start with Melo, obviously, Melo podcast. We'll start with Joe. Joe, what are your thoughts on Melo's performance in this playoff series? Obviously, he had a few pretty good games, and he had that one really bad Game 5, which everybody besides Dame had a really bad Game 5. But just as a whole, what do you think of how Melo performed in the playoffs? I
don't think Melo had a bad series versus Denver. He had his moments. I think for me, his best game was probably Game 1 and Game 6, stat-wise. Game 1, 18-3, efficient from the floor. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't involved, engaged. Everything was flowing. There was that as a team. I think Game 1 was their best game overall. If you think about it, you watch the film and go back and just dissect it all, it was their best game. Game 6, I felt like coming out when he got in the game in the first quarter, he got in his groove and really started to do some things on the offensive end. He was, rebounding, giving assists out. He had 14 and 5 rebounds and 4 assists. He was, efficient again. But again, towards the end of the game, Stotts reared his hair again and didn't want to play him the right way, and things were left real quick.
Yep.
And at the end of the day, I know we have 5 players on the floor that got to play in every game, but ultimately it's the coach's responsibility to get the best 5 players on the floor at certain times of the game to get an outcome for a W. From my opinion, I don't think Stotts did that Game 6, fourth quarter especially. But Melo, given the minutes and given the time on the floor, I mean, it could have been better. But again, it's coaching, man. And So we'll see. That's my opinion.
All right. Lana, what you think about how Melo played?
Melo overall, I think it's comparable to the regular season. I think, the regular season was 13.4 points, playoffs was 12.3. So like we're in the ballpark. I think when you factor in minutes and opportunity, he didn't have the same opportunity. This is not the same opportunity he got last year in the bubble. So I think, you can call it a wash. I think obviously there is, as Joe's already said, game one, game 6, game 3, like statistic wise, those are the best. And game 5 and game 2, like were tougher. Like game 2, like what do you do with 5 shots? Like, and no run, like it doesn't work. So, sure. I think we wish that he could have played better. I think Stotts was very set on what he wanted to do, and we'll talk about it later. I think what some of the opportunities for the series was to get a different outcome, but I think it was okay. Was it Melo's best series? No. Was there opportunity for him to do things differently? Yes. But if you were, I would give you a grade. I'd give him a B- based on the opportunity they got. I think if he got more opportunity and more shots, and they ran some different sets that they did in the bubble, we could be topping at a different grade.
Absolutely, 100%.
I think you're both. Go ahead, Joe.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say I think you're both like right on the money. I have both tabs open. Melo put up. Lionel, you're right. 13.4 in the regular season. Put up 12.3 in the playoffs. Shot 42.1% from the field in the regular season. 41.7 in the playoffs. Shot 40.9% from 3 in the regular season. 37.8% in the playoffs. So like not too far off for any of them. Obviously in the playoffs shit is going to get tougher. Teams are going to make adjustments and shit like that, but still, like Lionel, what you were just like talking about, where like he didn't have the same opportunities. He put up 10 shots a game in the playoffs, and in the regular season he put up 11.3. Last year he put up 13.5. So to put up only 10 a game, and like yes, he's what, the 4th option, maybe the 5th behind Nurkic. Like to put up 10 shots a game, I think he actually did really, really well, and especially defensively when he guarded Jokic better than anybody on the Blazers. Better than Nurkic. Nurkic couldn't stay on the floor. Covington like did his best, but it seemed that watching it, Melo bothered Jokic the most, which, let's be honest, none of us really expected that. But to see that shit, that he wasn't the weak link on defense like everyone has been talking about, that he like, no, he didn't ball out in the playoffs, but he put up respectable numbers for a fucking 5th option, whatever he is in Portland. So I think he did his thing, and especially in the playoffs when, like I said, teams make adjustments. If he had that good game 1 and then they focused on him for game 2, I'm sure a little bit more. They put some emphasis on him. So I think for what he was given in terms of opportunity, I think he did fairly well. Like both of you said, obviously, we all agree that he could have probably done better, but unfortunately, that's not really up to him most of the time. So
just think about it. Like I remember specifically in Game 6 with Melo towards the end of the game, was decided to put him in when it was too late. Anyway, he was guarding Jokic, right? He was physical with him, And I thought when he was guarding him, I thought back to Kobe when Kobe came on. I saw him on a YouTube clip when he says Melo like a bull, right?
Yeah.
I thought about that when he was guarding Jokic. He was giving the body, and he was frustrated. Jokic was frustrated by Melo. And that goes to show you, given the opportunity against someone like him, MVP, Melo can hold his own. But you have to be given the opportunity to do these things. And that's come down to coaching. If you're not making adjustments and coaching from the coaching aspect, you never know what can happen. That's one of the reasons why he's gone, in my opinion.
Agree. Lionel, real quick, touch on Melo's defense and what you saw out of it.
Again, much of the same. Like I think he was very active in getting hands in passing lanes, and obviously we know he's a very good defensive rebounder. But yeah, I think a lot can be highlighted when they kind of figured out that Melo could match up, and whether on Jokic, and whether he fronted him or whether he pushed him out far enough that he couldn't set up shop. It made it. That's the most difficult it was on Jokic. And again, like, how does it get to that we're, game 6, the game's on the line, it's actually getting away from us, and now you have this epiphany moment, the light bulb goes off, and now I'm going to put it like, this is the problem why he is, all the success he had in Portland during the regular seasons, we're talking about Stotts, he can't adjust fast enough, and this is why he's not the coach of the Blazers anymore.
I was literally going to say that there's a reason why he doesn't have a job right now. And it seems like he's going to get picked up pretty soon, but there's a reason that Portland moved on from him. Let's go straight into the disappointment and see who you guys were most disappointed in. I think it's pretty fair to say it's one of two people. But Lionel, let's hear you first on this one. Who are you most disappointed in?
So I think we got into this a little bit when you went on your IG rant. So the person that I'm most disappointed in is Nurkic. That's who I'm most disappointed in. People can point in, but I'll tell you why. So I think we saw the opportunities and the capabilities, particularly last year when he was healthy. He was an excellent third option. I know that, the team struggled a little bit, and this was where kind of Melo got some good run last year because they were so banged up, and this led to Melo being part of the team. But when they had Nurkic come back from injury, and now they had 4 of these guys cooking, that was the big opportunity. You see that Nurkic had a role and had opportunities to do things in the paint that were absolutely desperately needed to have an inside presence. In this series, we didn't get any of it. It was like, I don't know, like the bright stage of being in the NBA playoffs, playing against, now we know is the MVP of the league by a landslide. I don't know if he was just uber overwhelmed or intimidated that led to him playing so poorly, but that's where I'm disappointed. Like, if we could have got more of a soft, and again, we're talking about the MVP, so it's not going to be a soft, but if we could have narrowed the gap a little bit of what happened at the center position, the Blazers' results could have been a little bit different instead of being a one-man show, and a necessary one-man show based on how people played with Dame just doing Dame things. But Nurkic is the guy I'm disappointed in.
Yep.
Yeah.
Joe, what about you?
Yeah, I'm a side with Lionel with the Nurk comparison. But also, obviously, I'm going to add in Stotts to that too, right? But I'm going to touch on Nurk first. For me, his numbers, I'm a stat guy. I dig into the stats and I go through that and go about my own opinions based off of stats. Stat-wise, he wasn't horrible each game, minus game 2 maybe. But other than that, he was decent. Game 1, 16 and 12, 5 assists. Game 2 was his worst game, 7 and 13. Game 3, 13, 6 and 13. But it's his defensive pressure that we needed him against Jokic, right? And going to the series, I know Coach told him, we got to have you on the floor to have a chance to win this series in the game. He had to, right? But he found out games 2, 3, and 5, and we lost all 3. You can't do that. You got to be smart about it, Another example, game 6, Jokic had 3 fouls in the first half, right?
No, in game 6, he had 0 in the first half.
Fouls?
He had 0 in the first.
No, Jokic.
Oh, sorry. I thought you said Nurkic. My bad.
I'm sorry. He has 3 fouls. He's in foul trouble in the first half, right?
You're right. My bad.
And the rest of the game, 0 fouls. He was smart about it. He knew he's a big part of their team. He needs to stay in the game. So he knew he can get no more fouls. On the other hand, Nurk wasn't that smart. You gotta be smart. You gotta think. We need you to win games, to win a series, and he didn't do that. So him, and then obviously Stotts. Like everybody else say, the in-game adjustments, man, it just ain't there. 9 seasons, you would think that along the way, you'll be in the mindset to make adjustments each year, or how you want to put it, in-game, based on personnel, the flow of the game, this and the third. But he never did that. And you have to be able to make adjustments on the fly as a head coach in the NBA. And Terry Stotts is not good at that. When you got other teams and players on other teams talking about your head coach can't make adjustments, that's a problem, man. We got to move on from that.
You talking about when players are making fun of Dame?
Dame, based off Terry. Right, exactly. That's a problem, man.
It's embarrassing.
Isn't it? And, you know, so that would be my two people, half and half, that would be that situation for me. Not Dame, but Terry Stotts and Nurk.
All right. I was also going to say Nurk. Now I feel like, just so I don't repeat the same things you guys said,
throw CJ under the bus.
Yeah. Let's go with CJ. Because, you know, like everything that you guys said was on point. Obviously, we didn't think he was going to fucking hold Jokic to 20 points a game and all this shit. But Game 6, perfect example. This is who I thought you were talking about at first, Joe. He had Nurkic had 0 fouls in the first half after fouling out 3 of the first 5 games. And we're like, yo, good shit. Like, let's go. We're in this game. Like, we're going to be good. And then picks up 4 fouls in the third quarter. 4 fouls. And it's crazy where you talk about Jokic had 3 in the first half and 0 in the second half. And then Nurk has 0 in the first half and 4 in the third quarter. Yeah. It's just like, it's smarts at the end of the day. And obviously Nurkic doesn't have that. And then he comes out after the game and he's like, I want a bigger role. I don't know if I'm going to be here.
Exactly. You don't do that.
He can't even stay on the court. So how you want a bigger role? So Nurkic, extremely, extremely disappointed, especially like you guys were saying, what he looked like in the bubble. We're like, fuck, like this dude is legit and all that shit. Yeah. But let's talk about CJ a little bit. Where shout out Heather. I said this on the live, but Heather in our Discord always talks about the best backcourt in the NBA. One of the best backcourts in the NBA, like Dame and CJ. Like you always hear it, Dame and CJ. But when you really think about it, it's all fucking Damian Lillard. And like CJ, technically, he's an above average player. Like I don't think he's ever been an all-star. He might have been on track to do that this year, but he didn't. He got hurt. And to be the quote-unquote second best player on the team, to be part of one of the best backcourts in the NBA, and to come out and just completely shit the bed like he fucking did all series and step out of bounds at a crucial moment in that double overtime and just not being that second fiddle star that he is looked at by so many Portland fans and that I looked at. Like, I'm not going to lie. For the past 2 years, like we thought, okay, you know, CJ just needs to get healthy and all this shit. And of course, there's been plenty of times where he's pissed us off, where he's thrown up stupid shots, and it feels like intentionally looked off Melo in so many different situations. But at the end of the day, he is supposed to be that team's second best player, and he was honestly sometimes easily the worst player on the court. Like I wrote this in the Discord, I think, but like he looked. Defensively, Austin Rivers, Campazzo, whoever he was guarding, just seemed to go off. Offensively, was not efficient. Monte Morris. Like the Denver backcourt isn't that good without Jamal Murray. Campazzo and Austin Rivers were the starting guards, and then you have Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum. And like, yes, Damian Lillard did his thing for the most part, but CJ was outplayed by Austin Rivers, Campazzo, and even Monte Morris. And for that to be the case when you're supposed to be the second best player on a team,
embarrassing.
It's embarrassing. It's inexcusable at the end of the day. It's inexcusable at the end of the day. If they trade him this summer, I will not be shocked one bit because he clearly proved that right maybe in a few years from now. But right now, he is not that second guy that Portland needs to put next to Dame.
I think coming back from his injury, slowly but surely, CJ started to press him. He started to press a little bit. He started to press because he knew in the back of his mind, this is a year unlike any other where he had to really step up. Because I know he in the whispers in the back about possibly being traded in the offseason, things not working out. I know he hearing the whispers in the background.
About us shitting on him on this podcast. I know he hears that.
That too. He had to. He's pressing. Look at Melo on the wall every other game. He pressing. When you press, you're not thinking about team, you think about I. And it shows in the games, especially in this series. He had he had a shitty series, man. He had a really bad series. He got exposed, especially on defense. You got Rivers, who came on the Nuggets on 2-day contracts, busting his ass, excuse my French. Monte Morris off the bench, giving it the business. Campazzo from EuroLeague, busting his ass. Exposed, man.
Last thing on CJ real quick. Shot 7 threes a game in the playoffs and shot 33%.
That's just not good enough. Like, we talk about being him exposed on defense. Okay. But you need to deliver on offense. If you look at, like, just go back and start looking at teams that make a run with, and you can talk about some of the great teams with a second option. Scottie Pippen when Jordan goes to the bench. Scottie goes off. Kobe and Shaq. Kobe goes off when Shaq goes to the bench. Like, if Damian is going to take any break and not play 48 minutes, he's got to contribute. And 33% from three in a three-point era is not good enough. Not good enough.
And especially when you're not.
What did you say? Melo shot 37?
Yeah.
So, and not getting any shots. So, like, like the ball is going through him a lot more than it's going through Norman Powell or any other option. Like, we're depending on him. We have to remember, and I was going to make this point, like, Portland, this series was a contrast in style. And Steve, I think you and I talked about it on the last episode that I was on. If Portland can play their way and play in the 120s, Portland will win. If this game is played below 110, around 100, they're going to lose. And you thought I was crazy, and look what happened.
And yeah, let's give Lionel his credit right now because obviously the Clippers advanced, but pretty much we knew. I think this was a week or two before the regular season ended.
Yeah.
And we were previewing the playoffs. And we're like, yo, who would you rather play, the Nuggets or the Clippers? And the Clippers went down 2-0. Obviously, the Nuggets beat the Blazers. And, it's just crazy. Like, who knows if they would have beat the Clippers, but I just thought the Nuggets were such a good matchup. I was like, there's no way this team offensively can keep up with Portland. There's no way. Without Murray, I can't see it unless Michael Porter Jr. goes off. And, like, especially that first quarter, like, he had a few games, like, without a doubt, but he didn't go. He wasn't, like, that second. He wasn't Jamal Murray, let's put it that way, except for that one quarter. But, yeah, Monte Morris, just all these dudes stepping up. And, Lionel called it. He called it. He said he'd rather play the Clippers. And, the Clippers just went to 7 with Dallas against pretty much Luka on that team. So, yeah, man, it's crazy. I picked the Blazers in 5. I was very confident. And let's go over to adjustments. We spoke a little bit about stats. At least Joe did. Joe, we'll start with you on this one. If you could have made one adjustment, if you were Terry Stotts, what is the one adjustment you would have made that you believe would have changed the series in favor of the Portland Trail Blazers?
You know what, man? And, like, doing some watching and research today, I thought about two things. So it's a combination of two things for my one adjustment.
Okay.
I think that Stotts should have played Derrick Jones Jr. more. I don't know what happened between March and now, but his run has been 0. From, like, March, the end of March to, like, now, he got little to no burn.
Yep.
Whatever reason. But this series, I think him especially and Harry Giles could have been used in some situations, especially Derrick Jones Jr. with his athleticism and length. Especially like, for example, in the one game when Porter had like 24 in the first quarter, 22 points in the first quarter.
Crazy shit like that, yeah.
Like Jones Jr. length and being athletic maybe could have altered that a little bit, you know. But again, you got to be able to insert guys into the lineup and see what they can do, you know. If you look at his numbers, Jones Jr., he put up some decent numbers, especially on defensive end. With blocks, steals, you know what I'm saying? Rebounds. He rebounds well for his size. And we could have used those rebounds, those steals, those blocks. But again, our coach don't want to adjust. Harry Giles, quick, long, athletic, 4 or 5, to get in the game and, you know, maybe cause some kind of confusion for Jokic. But we never know. He rebounds well, but you got to use what you have personnel-wise in the course of a game. So those two guys, I think, have really helped us in this series. But again, you have to insert those guys to see what they can do. But we never did that.
Yeah.
They really helped us out, especially Jones Jr. I really do.
I think what happened in March that caused him to get little to no burn is the Powell trade. I think that's as soon as Norman Powell came, he started, and that pretty much left no minutes for Derrick Jones Jr., whether it was right or not. But I'm pretty sure that that's what kind of gave him.
But I hear what you said. But even still, like, how tall is he? 6'5", 6'6", Jones Jr.
I think it's
Derrick Jones.
Yeah.
I mean, being athletic. I mean, he's long though, right? He could have helped. He could have contributed, especially against Denver. You know, Norman Powell is 6'3" at best. He's not a defender. He can't guard. He can't get out and block shots and rebound and get out on the floor like Derrick Jones Jr. can. We needed that, especially in this series. That's all I'm saying.
All right,
what do you think, Lionel?
What are you saying?
I think if I would give you an overarching adjustment, it would be to play to your strengths and play your style. I think they were trying to counteract so often what the Nuggets were doing. We know what Portland does. Again, I said it 5 minutes ago. They got to play in the 120s. So what does that mean? You need a lineup that goes out there and can score. Like you have to have, with Dame with the ball in his hand, multiple options. So, in this, there's no room for Covington to play. Like, he's not a scorer. We don't need like, who's he stopping? Like, he's not the best player that's on the floor is Nurkic. So if you're not going to have Covington stop Nurkic, Covington is useless in this. And hey, in a different series when we're talking Kawhi Leonard or something else, he has value. But in this series, they needed to play to their strength, and they didn't. They had options to go small. They didn't do that. They had options to go really big. They didn't do that. So the whole ability to try and adjust that they could play their basketball versus Denver's basketball, it didn't happen. They figured out the very end. With 3 minutes to go in the game, let's put Melo on the MVP and see if it's that actually worked. Damn, why don't we think of this in game 2 when the game got away from us? Why don't we think about this in overtime? So anyways, that's kind of the big overarching thing, is that they didn't play their style of basketball. They played almost counteractive to what the Nuggets did, and it cost them the series. They could have easily played what worked in the bubble and done a ton of this pick and roll stuff with Melo and Dame. That works so well, and they just didn't go back to what worked for them throughout the season, and even what we saw when the Blazers made their run in the playoffs last year, and that killed them. They didn't have any go-to other than clear out and let Dame have the ball and let's see what happens, because everyone else didn't play well. Melo was okay, and a few other guys had their moments, but we needed CJ to be great, and it didn't happen. But we had other ways to kind of get to generate some offense and ultimately generate some open shots if it wasn't going to be Dame taking the shot. They just didn't do those things, and that's what cost them the series.
Lionel, I was going to ask you a question about that, because you spoke of strengths of the team. You brought up the bubble. My question to you is, last year in the bubble, that 5 we had during the bubble, would that 5 would fare better against this year's different against team in the playoffs?
100%.
I think so.
Yeah, that's what I was. Yeah.
Like
matchups.
It's just that's what it comes down to. The NBA is matchups, and if your best guy can get off, and you can have other matchups that work. That if they trap
100%.
or do whatever with your best guy, then the other guys can go to work and get their shots in a very easy fashion. So I would be pro the bubble team in the playoffs versus the team, and not based on the result, but based on the capabilities of those key 5s, right? That's the big thing. So,
oh, absolutely. And you know what? Right here, I have the stats about Melo. About Melo, last year versus Lakers in the playoffs, game 1, 11 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists. Game 1. Game 3, 26 and 4. 20.6 boards, 2 assists, 4 steals. Game 5, 27.7 rebounds.
That was a beautiful game. I
Wasn't
remember it? Yeah, it was. So what happens when you get run and you get shots.
Yeah,
unlike this.
His name was out. Yo, when I first came up with these questions and I thought about this, I'm like, my mind just went so many different places. Like, one thing that crossed my mind was sometimes, and this was like a team thing, just when they're not hitting their threes, they don't stop shooting. And like, at least one play, give the ball to someone on the block and like get an easier look. You might not get a layup, but maybe you get fouled. Maybe you get like a mid-range, get like something closer. It's crazy how they lived and died by the 3. But and like, I hear you, Lionel, with the Rocco thing, because like, Rocco is he's a solid player. We know this. We're not sitting here and saying he's not a good player, but for this series, he was matched up against Aaron Gordon, who didn't do much. They didn't really need a defensive guy like that out on Aaron Gordon in the first place. He couldn't guard Jokic. He just wasn't able to. He was too slow for Michael Porter Jr. So, I don't want to say don't play him, but like, limit his minutes a little bit and play Melo more at the 4. Put in Derrick Jones Jr., shit like that. But really, I feel it's frustrating because I feel like there's so many different things that if they did this differently, it could have worked. One thing that I would have liked to see, Joe, you mentioned it, was Harry Giles. It was so obvious that Kanter wasn't that guy, and again, kind of a little shout out to Stotts for like making that adjustment of like, okay, this dude can get 0 minutes. But at the end of the day, when Nurkic wasn't on they matched Nurkic and Jokic's minutes for the most part. Whenever Jokic was coming in, they sent out Nurkic. So, but when he got into foul trouble, Covington was on him or Melo was on him, and it's not necessarily that Jokic, was going off with Covington on him. It was just that the whole defense had to shift their focus because they knew Robert Covington couldn't guard Jokic one-on-one. So that opened up the court for Michael Porter, for fucking Monte Morris, for all these other dudes who got a shot or 2 in, and they're like, oh, fuck, like, let's go. They get confidence, and then it's all from there. So for me, Harry Giles is someone who we saw here and there throughout the season, and broad energy. If there's one thing he's decent at, and the reason he's on a roster, it's probably defense. And like, they had nothing to lose because Covington wasn't it. Like, it's not like it was working. It wasn't working. And for Stotts to not even try Harry Giles for 1 minute, I mean, maybe he got in like in one of the blowout games, but for him not to even try him on Jokic for 1 minute, it just almost seems like, he had this 8-man rotation and he was like, that's it, I'm sticking to it. I made my adjustment. Kanter isn't playing, like, these 7 guys will go out and do it. And again, not saying that this would have won them the series if we saw minutes from Harry Giles, but I would have been very, very curious to see what would have happened if Jokic had a physical defender. Giles is pretty athletic, quick, and shit like that. And that's the one adjustment I would have liked to see. Again, would it have changed the outcome? Don't know.
Did you guys happen to listen to Neil O'Shea press conference yesterday?
Hell no. No, fuck that. No. What do you say?
Well, he spoke about the rotation and how Coach Stotts had an 8-man rotation that was just what it was, and he didn't want to go much deeper than that. But being down and being in foul trouble, the games that Nurk was in, why not try something different? You know, that's what I'm saying. To your point, why not?
Yeah.
Covington can't guard him.
No.
He was just giving the ball in the post every time. Barbecue chicken, he was saying every time. Lay up 5, lay up barbecue chicken. Every time.
Dude.
And in his counter, in the post. Oh my God. He was like out on his face. Barbecue chicken.
Thanksgiving turkey.
Man, you know?
One thing I did hear Olshey say was he wants his next coach to be someone who holds people accountable defensively, which I thought was interesting. But
yeah.
let's get to the one bright spot of this series for Portland. Damian Lillard. For those who didn't know, he is that fucking guy. For me personally, I guess I'll start on this. The question is, have you ever seen anything like Dame's ability to carry a team, specifically that Game 5? Melo never did what Dame did in terms of like every single play come down and like I think Dame had hit like 6 threes in a row or something crazy like that. But what Dame did in that Game 5 by putting up 55 points in double overtime and single-handedly carrying that team as far as he could, me personally, I've never seen anything like that where this dude was coming down in the playoffs. Everybody knew what he was going to do. He did what they thought he was going to do, and they still couldn't stop it. And I've never seen somebody that clutch. Like, obviously, all of us have watched Melo. Melo is one of the most clutch players of all time. We got to witness Kobe Bryant for a long time, but just Dame in that fourth quarter, overtime, double OT, and to do, not really double OT, but to do all that shit that he was doing was absolutely insane to me. It reminded me a little bit of Melo New York, where like Melo was doing his thing, Dame was doing his thing, their teammates just couldn't step up. And like we spoke about this, it was really embarrassing. Like all the other Blazers on the court that Game 5, Melo included, but CJ, Nurk, Norman Powell, Robert Covington, like they look like they had never played basketball before in their life, and I've never seen that before. So Lionel, start second person up. Will be you. What do you think of Dame's ability to carry a team, and have you seen anything like that? Whether it's like Melo, Kobe, Jordan, or whoever.
Yeah, it was out of this world. I still remember watching the game and texting in like multiple groups at the same time, and the messages are coming in faster than I can get them out. But like we talk about, you know, Steph Curry and some of the things that he's done to carry his team, but like that double overtime game was just unbelievable. Like this team is like literally dead on its feet. It's like, all right, give me the ball, hold on. Okay.
Hold on.
Now, if someone can miss, I'm going to make the next one. And someone missed, and he goes down, and he makes the next one. It was unbelievable. So we talk about, you know, you can say Jordan, you can say Kobe, you think about Dirk when they won the title. But the person that I think about the most is his first run to the finals, and they lost, was LeBron. LeBron against I want to say it was the Detroit Pistons, when he scored like 27 like consecutive points, and it went all through him. Like LeBron at that point in his career he was like in year 3 or 4, was not a great 3-point shooter, but he was making everything. Right. And it was like, you knew he had the ball, like he had everyone kind of like 4 corners, and you know he's not passing it. He's just going to take it, and he's either going to get to the rim, he's going to dunk on someone, or he's going to step back and shoot this 3. So that is probably the closest parallel that, like, you know, the team had the deer in the headlights syndrome and had no other option, had no idea what to do. And it's like, all right, give me the ball. Here we go. And him making basket after basket. But what we saw with Dame is like I'm hoping that this playoff, we don't lose sight of how amazing that was. We will see other great things in this playoff. KD is playing out of his mind. It looks like Giannis doesn't even look like he should have been MVP the last two years. And it's like KD is playing him like he was holding KD's trophy because KD wasn't available to play. But I think we have so many great guys in the league, and we're seeing so many great performances. We'll see that right to the finals. But what Dame did cannot be ignored and cannot be forgotten when we talk about this playoff in its entirety, because that was one of the highlights of the first round, on 100%. Dame hitting shots from everywhere. So, anyways, that's my 2 cents on that.
All right, Joe.
Yeah, man. For me, I kept thinking about it as a whole, especially in Game 5. The shots Dame was making in the first OT, like, I think for the most part, Denver knew where the ball was going down the stretch in his first OT. It was going to Dame. And I was reading quotes of what Austin Rivers said about when he's guarding Dame doing the first and second overtime. He was like, I was up in him, and he was still making shots over top of me. And I couldn't do anything about it. And he was that good. I kept thinking about Jordan, like being that clutch for those many minutes, those 2 overtimes especially, shot to shot, being down 6-7 in the first OT and second OT, and everybody knew where the ball was going. Yet Dame came through, pull up from 30, the hands in his face every single time, step backs, side steps, pull up threes. I kept thinking of Jordan in my head because it was so clutch the way he was doing it, effortless. And I just wish we had help for him, man. I felt, like you guys said, I felt so bad that we didn't have necessary help to get it over the hump for us, man. But that was phenomenal performance he put on Game 5. Double nickel.
There were so many opportunities in that overtime, double overtime. To step out of bounds, we can't squeeze a rebound. Guy misses a 15-footer. Guy misses a layup.
Covington missing the dunks.
Yes, there was multiple dunks that were missed. So it's like poor Dame. Like, it's like, what do I gotta do? It's like, what I gotta do? Score 65, not 55? Like, come on, dog.
Yeah.
Dude, the next day, like, I remember I was like, what the fuck am I gonna post? Like, I do like the game recaps and all that shit on Instagram and Twitter. I'm like, I'm not posting Melo highlights. Like, I tell you, I think he was like 3 of 11. Not good. Like, obviously not like, oh my fucking God, what was going on with him? But like, not good. And I posted a video of like this dude in court singing sorry to the judge and shit like that. And I remember seeing one of the comments, and it was like, damn, I was hoping you weren't gonna post today or some shit like that. But at the end of the day, like, I felt bad. Like, I couldn't do anything about it. Me personally, like, Steven Tsakanikas cannot do shit about helping that Portland Trailblazers win that game that day. But I like felt like I owed Damian Lillard something. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I tweeted him. I'm like, dude, I don't know like why I feel like this, but I like feel responsible, and like, I'm sorry that Robert Covington thought he was Zion Williamson for a night. That like Melo was like dribbling out of bounds. I'm sorry that CJ didn't know where the court was and was pulling it JR. I remember, dude, last year in the playoffs, in one of the Lakers Blazers game, pretty sure it was Lakers Blazers. My J.R. Smith, my second favorite player of all time, caught an inbound pass out of bounds. He was like going to curl like in the corner or something, and he caught it out of bounds and he shot it. So just like making that comparison to CJ to JR there, but like, yeah, I just felt bad, and like you guys both said, like, truly one of the greatest individual performances I've seen in basketball in all my years of watching, just every single time down the court. Just doing what they knew he was going to do. So, yeah, man, it was the series was real. To quote Michael Beasley, the series was real. It was fun, but it wasn't real fun. Blazers losing 6, and just not what a lot of us hoped for. So, as we get to the end of this podcast, don't know if you guys have thought about this yet. Let me know if each of you need a minute or if one of you is ready. But you both know at the end of every podcast, we allow our guests to control a narrative. Doesn't have to be Melo related. Doesn't have to be basketball related. Doesn't have to be sports related. So I'm just gonna, whoever wants to take it first can take it, and let both of you guys control a narrative. So is anyone ready?
Well, I can start, man. For me, it's like this whole narrative that Melo's is older. He's 37 now, and he pretty much is a bench player now. He more suited to come off the bench and be a six man off the bench now. Based off, this year in the bubble, more importantly, I don't believe in that. I think what we saw, I keep going back to the bubble, man, because that showed me a lot about Carmelo Anthony, the ball player, right? The things he was doing, being so clutch when he's needed, still a walking bucket, can defend, savvy, tough when it needs to be. He's not a bench player. He can start on any contending team in the NBA, in my opinion. This narrative about he's older, he's a step or two slow. Okay, it's fine. But at the end of the day, in the NBA, we probably got 5 players gonna play defense like that, real hard nose. And I think Melo is a starter, if not Portland, next year, any team in the NBA. And that's just my opinion.
Respect. Lionel, what do you got?
All right. So the narrative is that there's a lot of fingers to point in Portland on how things have gone. We've pointed the fingers at the coach, at Nurk, at CJ. But yeah, I think a lot of things need to change. But I think ultimately there's a lot of Melo haters, although there's us that, love him dearly. And I know that there's, a lot of pointing. Oh, if Melo is this, top 10 NBA player and all of these things, he's washed, he's done. It's his fault why we didn't go into another gear and win the series. So, with that type of narrative, the questions will be asked. Should he retire? Is he done? And all I want to say is, despite what anyone thinks, he's clearly not done. He's clearly capable. We're talking about guy still scoring double digits in his 18th year in the league. So, let's, hopefully things work out this year in free agency. I don't think he goes back to Portland. It would have to be something very special with a new coach that would give him an opportunity. I know that the guys on the team really like him, but hopefully that there's a very open mind with the league that he does get an opportunity. I've staked my claim many times. Just come home. We want you. We want you in New York. We want you as the Knicks. You can come off the bench. We will have a standing ovation every single time you come off the bench. Come get your 12, 13 points a game. We need to see you in the past Shaq and get into the top 8. We would all love to see it in New York. It would be absolutely incredible. You clearly could see that these young guys, they just needed another person to go to, another option. Randall and RJ they need more time. They could learn a lot from Carmelo Anthony, and Derrick Rose can stick around. We can bring in whoever, DeRozan or bring in Chris Paul because he's going to opt out of his contract, and that would be really interesting. But that's what I'm saying. I'm sticking the flag in the ground. This is not Carmelo Anthony's fault. It's not over. And come home to New York. We want you as a Knick to wrap this up.
I got one question for you guys. One question. This time next year, or beginning of next year, where's Melo playing at? In your heart of hearts, what do you guys think?
New York. Knicks on the Knicks.
You think so?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's get a quick round table. Lionel, you think New York with the Knicks?
Yep.
Joe,
Yep.
you think?
I think I got 3. I'm sorry, I got 3. I think
No, we need one. We need a prediction. Portland?
Yep.
Because I just got a notification from Bleacher Report. that the Celtics, Blazers, and Magic are all interested in hiring Nets assistant coach Mike D'Antoni. Celtics, Blazers, and the Magic. So if he goes, if the Blazers hire him, there's a 0% chance Melo returns, in my opinion. But interesting, perfect timing. Thanks, Bleacher Report, for that shit. But yeah, I think the Knicks. So yeah, man, it's been a wild season. A lot of ups, lots of downs, and even the playoffs, lots of ups. You know, when they tied it 2-2, I'm like, let's go. Dame hitting all those shots. I'm like, yo, we're about to go up 3-2. And an opportunity to win on their home floor. Obviously, that didn't happen, but it's been a hell of a season. Cannot wait to see what happens this summer and next year. And I look forward to many, many more episodes of hopefully recording and reporting more on the Knicks. So, we're not up till fucking 1 o'clock in the morning, pissed off after the Blazers lose at the last minute like they always do.
No doubt.
But anyway, Joe, Lionel, I appreciate you guys a lot, and looking forward to all the future episodes, hopefully with Melo on the Knicks.
Yep, sounds good to me.
Thanks a lot, man. S. Lionel. Been a pleasure, man.
No doubt. Always. Yep.
Appreciate you guys' time.
All love. Stay mellow, boys.
Always.
Absolutely.